Hi everyone, today I'm going to be talking about The Forgetting Moon by Brian Lee Durfee. This is a very big book. The audiobook is over 30 hours long, so you definitely get a lot of bang for your buck. This is a fantasy adventure. There are gruesome parts to this book, such as someone getting like all their limbs cut off and someone taking a sword to the top of their head. I know some of the reviews I've heard of and seen said that it was too gruesome for them to continue reading. I would have to disagree personally, but I mean, maybe my tolerance from gruesome things is higher than others. The other thing is that someone had made a comment or a review saying that there was a lot of like sex and more specifically rape in this book, and there is not. Yes, there is. One of the characters does talk about how another character takes her to bed every night, so it's kind of phrased like that. It's not going into explicit detail about what is happening in the bedroom or any pain. You're not getting a first person kind of perspective on what she's going through. It's more of just like a past tense kind of thing. So it's just like, yeah, he made me lie with him again last night. And that's how it's phrased. So even if she is having sex with this person that she doesn't really want to, you're not getting the details as you would in other books. So for me personally, I don't think that would normally hinder people. And I would say that if you have seen those comments, you should definitely still try reading the book yourself, because someone's perspective might not actually be your perspective, or their viewpoint of it being so gruesome, it is not quite as gruesome as what you think it may be. This is just personally, okay? You start off with Shawcroft. Now, Shawcroft is like a knight, and he is on a glacier or some big frozen tundra. He's protecting a woman and her 4-year-old child, who is a boy, from Bloodwoods. Now, Bloodwoods are specially trained assassins. They have these giant black horses with red eyes because they're basically on steroids. These guys like pump their horses full of steroids and they become just like freaking crazy. So Shawcroft, you only get like one chapter, which is the first chapter in his perspective. You follow several different people in this book, which at times I guess could be confusing to an extent. So when you start a new chapter, you do definitely have to kind of go back to where that person was before. Now, even though there are like at least 5 people or 5 perspectives you follow, I do think that this helps put all the little pieces together. Nail is an orphan boy who Shawcroft saved, rescued, whatever. He lives in this tiny little fish town way out in the middle of nowhere. Shawcroft has had Nail work in the mines his whole life. Nail is now 17. He was that 4-year-old boy. He is now 17. He knows nothing of his parents. He does not know who his mom is or who his dad is. He knows he has a stepsister, he knows he has a twin sister. No idea where she is. He has no clue about anything. Nail is an artist. He seems like a really kind-hearted person. He's in love with Ava, who is like the town beauty. Everyone fancies her and she's gorgeous. So he wants to prove his worth to her. He's a bastard. So unfortunately, because he's a bastard, He can't participate in a lot of like the holy rituals that go on in town, and not everyone, but most people kind of treat him like shit, which is really unfortunate because Nail seems to be like a pretty cool dude. Like, he even went out on a fishing journey. It is kind of like a whale hunt, but it's not a whale. It's like a whale / squid thing that they hunt, and they hunt these creatures, but because they were hunted so much, they're kind of going extinct. So he goes out on this hunt for like the first time ever, and one of his buddies gets knocked into the ocean, and nobody saves his friend except him. He jumps in there and he saves his friend. Like, Nail, although he kind of like, his character can be kind of whiny and kind of like woe is me at times, Nail is actually like a really good person. I think you got to keep in mind he's only 17 when you read the book, and some of his decisions, like as an adult, you might think, well, that's not realistic. But as like a 17-year-old boy who's been kind of an outcast like his whole life and not been treated well, like, just you got to remember different perspectives for different characters as you go along reading this. Okay, aside from Nail, you follow Jondrelin, who is the eldest princess, and Talia, who is the youngest princess. Now, their brother Javan is the king. Their father died in battle. Okay, Jondrelin does not like her older brother. He kind of treats her like shit too. She wants to prove her worth as a warrior, and it is not a thing in their kingdom for women to be warriors. Like, she has like elves teaching her how to battle. She has Hawkwood, who used to be a bloodborne assassin, or a bloodwood assassin. He was an assassin, Hawkwood was. He came to the kingdom to kill Jondrelin. He fell in love with her because she is so beautiful. That's like her whole thing throughout the entire kingdom, or what she's known for throughout all the lands, is that she's the most beautiful woman that anyone has ever seen. So when Hawkwood came to assassinate her and saw her, he instantly fell in love with her and decided to not kill her and kind of like join her cause and be on her team. So Jondrelin does not like her older brother, the king. She likes Hawkwood, but she was engaged to another guy who is now in the pits. And it's like a gladiator arena. So he got arrested for killing someone who's basically a pope. And he now has to go to the gladiator arena and battle for his life. If he wins, he can walk away scot-free, because that means that their god is on his side. Okay. Aside from Hawkwood being behind Jondrelin and her supporter, she also has a dwarf as well. So Jondrelin is trying everything she can to kind of stack up her pawns behind her, because she is thinking about taking over the kingdom. That's kind of what she's heading for, is she's really thinking about being the ruler and replacing her brother. Now, Talia, which I might be saying wrong, is the youngest princess. She is engaged to Glade, who is kind of like a royal person. He's kind of a douche. Let me just phrase it as that. He's a douche. Granted, he's young. You know, Talia is 17. I think Glade is like 17, if not maybe a little older. He might be 18. It doesn't matter. He's a douche, and he's really... You find out later on, like, he's not a good guy. So you have Glade, who's her fiance. You have Lindorf, who is her cousin. He's got like scars on his face, but he seems really sweet. He seems like a nice guy. He's really could be funny at times. He has a twin sister named Laura, Now, Talia and Laura, they are going through the hidden passageways in the castle when Laura gets poisoned by a assassin. So there's a Bloodwood hiding in the castle, poisons Talia's cousin Laura. And then that assassin starts leaving messages for Talia to do errands for the assassin. So once Talia's done doing all these errands and like these sneaky squirrel missions, then the Bloodwood assassin will give Talia the antidote for Laura. If you've kept up with me this far. I'm trying to cram as much little bits of information I can within a reasonable amount of time for a book review. And I haven't even got done with all the characters that you see their point of views for, okay? Then you have Galt. He is an older warrior, and he is following the White Prince. Now, the White Prince is the one who is wreaking havoc across the kingdoms. He is trying to collect weapons, possessions, and these little bloodstone things. So, in this world, there is a guy who died for all of our sins, basically, and his wife finished him off and put rocks in him, and then took the rocks out and then gave the rocks to like 5 special people, and like a crown and an axe and a sword and some other stuff to the warrior angels. So the White Prince has read or heard a prophecy, however you want to phrase it. So he's trying to collect the 5 bloodstones and the 5 artifacts from this time long, long ago because of a prophecy that's believed to be set in motion and going to happen. Basically, like the guy who died for their sins or whatever is going to come back to Earth, or their Earth, and what is that called? Like not judge everyone. Rapture, maybe? I'm trying to think of the word I'm looking for, and I can't think of it in my brain. I'm so sorry. The White Prince, at least from what I have read and just from like the dialogue, because you don't get his perspective, you get other people's perspectives around him. But to me, from my perspective and from what I've read, it seems like he thinks he's like a god, like he can't die and can't get hurt. So I'm not sure if that's just because he's a prince and like he was raised to believe that, or if someone was like, you're really special and you're going to rule the entire world, all the kingdoms. I'm not sure. So maybe in the second or third book, we'll get to that. I don't know. So there's Ava too. I forgot Ava's perspective. Ava is the girl that Nail is in love with. Ava is not in love with Nail though. And I don't really like her too much as a character. I'm going to be quite honest. Not only is she kind of like a whiny crybaby, but I felt like she led Nail on. Like Nail was like being pretty obvious that he liked her. I think the signals and the signs were there. And Ava led him on up until after he even kissed her. He kissed her and she was just like, oh, why'd you do that? And then goes and hangs out with like another dude and dances with him and ends up being in love with like this other person. So far, the whole of book 1, I don't like Ava as a character. She's probably like one of my least favorite characters, personally. Creature-wise, there are mermaids. There's a creature that's either an orc or a goblin. I'm honestly not 100% sure. If I remember, they're called like orgles. So I think they're orc, but I don't know. There's also talks of dragons. Dragons have been mentioned several times, but you don't see any dragons. I'm hoping that in one of the future books, dragons are going to play a bigger part because I love dragons. Just a side note, my favorite character by far is Beer Mug. Beer Mug is absolutely my favorite character. Beer Mug is a dog, and he is a badass dog. He is one of Neil's friend's dog, and this dog is not scared of anything. He like will jump in to a situation where there's like 30 guys trying to attack one dude, and he's in there biting legs and like tearing people down. There's another scene where he's fighting one of the Bloodwood horses, like the big black horses with red eyes that are on steroids. Yeah, he like fights one of those. This dog is an awesome dog. I love my dog. Molly's a good dog. She's a fat dog, but she's a good dog. But Beer Mug is definitely, he's one of those characters that when they come or when they have a scene, you're just like, yes, go, you're so cool. That's how I felt about Beer Mug. Beer Mug was absolutely my favorite character. I think the book was better just because of Beer Mug. So kudos to the author for adding Beer Mug into the story. Now that I got through at least most of the characters, the whole point of the book is everybody or different individual people trying to find bloodstones / artifacts to get in their possession. So when the coming of God basically happens, like they have the power of these artifacts. So when someone finds like a bloodstone, if they're not supposed to be the ones to have it, like if they have a weak will, there's a good chance they might die from it. Or if they find like the axe or one of the weapons, like they're going to want to keep it. So even if someone who's not supposed to have it gets it, they're going to want to keep it forever. So I did this as a buddy read with my friend Wade. Like we read it together. And I would like, when they find the bloodstone, I sent him like a little like gif, whatever you want to call it, of like Gollum with like his precious ring. Because that's what it reminds me of. People kind of be like, my precious, and just become like super psycho about it. So there's five of the bloodstones, 5 of the artifacts, and there are several individual people who are trying to get all of them so they have all the power. Now, they have not all been found. Not all 5 artifacts and bloodstones have been found in the first book. This is like the first of 3 that have been released. I don't know how many books are being released. So you're following Neil through his little adventure. You're following John Jerlin as she's trying to figure out whether or not she wants to overthrow her brother. You're following Talia as she's doing missions for the assassin trying to save her cousin. All right, down to the nitty gritty. Do I like the book and do I recommend it? Yes, I like the book. Yes, I recommend it. I actually think that the description on the back of the book or what they put on like the Amazon or like the Audible description of the book, I don't think that does this book justice. I think this book is so much better than how they phrase it in the description. Like, I feel like the description doesn't do enough. It doesn't tell you exactly what's going on. It just kind of, I don't know. I just feel like it's lacking. This book is much better than I thought it was going to be. It's so much better than what I was expecting. I'm actually looking forward to the next book. We're reading the next book in this series instead of me finding something else I want to read because it's my turn to pick. I said like, hey, do you want to read the next one in the series? Because I'm legitimately curious what happens to these characters. Am I attached to these characters? Maybe Beer Mug. Maybe. I like Beer Mug. I don't know if I would say I'm technically emotionally attached to these characters. Some of the situations that they're in, I like inwardly cringe when I was listening to it because it's like I could kind of foresee what could happen because their personalities, not saying their personalities are garbage, I'm just saying like I'm getting my own perspective and I'm just like, wow, like, girl, you sound kind of big-headed, like you might be getting ahead of yourself. You might want to like cool your jets a little bit. Like, you gotta have some modesty in there. And then, like, you know, something bad happens and it's like, well, you probably should have made better choices. And I don't feel bad for what happens to people. I don't. Well, I mean, they're characters, but I definitely think it's worth the read. I would recommend it. I think you should listen to it, buy it, whatever. There's not a lot of downs either, because you're going through so many different perspectives. There's so much going on with these individual people that you don't have a ton of downtime. I will say, like, there's like maybe 1 or 2 chapters in Nails that are relatively slower, but they need to be slower because, like, right afterwards there's a lot of stuff that happens and it's just like this giant explosion of things, and then you're just like constantly, you know, running, fighting, fleeing, and searching for places, which is great. I love stories like that. So I appreciate you watching. Get the book, read the book, listen to the book on audio. That's what I did on Audible. You should do that. But yeah, again, we are reading the next one, which I can't remember. I think it's like The Blackest Heart is the next one. It don't matter. Whatever book 2 is in this series is what we're reading next. So there you go. I hope you guys have a good day, and I'll see you later. Bye, everyone.